Goramila Magat Akahirlik. Thanks, Kahirlik, and welcome, Minister. And indeed to acknowledge your very strong personal commitment to getting this right, Minister, and the skill you've brought to that. I think, and we tend to allow sometimes in here, in the political, in these elected assemblies in the Oireachtas, we can allow sometimes some of the negativity from outside to impact on us, and maybe sometimes become self-critical because of it, unwittingly and wrongly. I think we should be collectively very proud that one of the great achievements of our political system and of the houses of the Oireachtas and the government of the day has been the way we've dealt with the Brexit challenge and its potential to damage our country and to damage our relationship with the UK and to cause huge economic dislocation, social dislocation and many problems. And I think it's a success for government in the way it was handled, but it's a success too for the entire Oireachtas in the way that there was the cooperative spirit and the working together to achieve that kind of outcome. And I think we should have a collective pride in that. It's been one of the great successes. And when we're confronted with negativity, as we often are, and as we often allow ourselves wrongly to succumb to, I think we should hold our shoulders out and stand tall and proud of what we've done here. I think it's one of the great successes of contemporary times. It had such enormous potential to destroy us on so many fronts, and of course still presents challenges, obviously, huge challenges. Now, as the Minister has said, the 2019 Omnibus Bill brought about contingency measures to address issues that would arise if no deal, if there had been no deal. Now, since then, we've had the withdrawal agreement, the protocols on Ireland, and all of which brings about the abiding of a hard border, which is the success that I alluded to earlier. It allows for the access for Northern Ireland goods to the single market. The UK Internal Markets Bill offends and challenges that, but we have to hope and work that sanity is to prevail in the end. I'm personally confident, and let's pray that we have an agreement. I'm confident that we'll have an agreement on the premise that self-interest on both sides of the Irish Sea dictates the need for an agreement, and the results of a non-agreement have huge negative economic implications for the UK, as they would have for here. And I think that collective self-interest will have to prevail. Our self-interest being negotiated by the EU team and the UK negotiating their own self-interest. But I think sanity will have to prevail. And I do know from reading about it and informally just chatting to the Minister as we entered that the fishing issue is very big, and big obviously for this country, but we have to pray that a compromise can be reached and arrived at. The government are now preparing for two scenarios, basically, in a limited agreement and a hard Brexit. If you got a total free trade agreement, it would be the optimum outcome with everything agreed, but it may be more limited. New controls and procedures will be necessary. Now, there's been a lot of preparatory work done, and it's all been detailed by the Minister, but it's been supported strongly by government with the 20 million in July and the budget 2021 commitment of in excess of 300 million. There's 15,000 additional staff at airports and ports, and that's a very significant change and investment. The omnibus bill now ahead of us, which of course I'm proud to support, and I hope, as the Minister does, and I have no doubt, but will receive the support of the House on patriotic grounds, basically. But the the Omnibus Bill has 21 parts. The withdrawal agreement and the protocol on Ireland already deal with many of the issues, but the purpose of the bill is fundamentally to protect our citizens, our consumers, our businesses. Is to reduce the possibility of serious economic consequences and to look after key sectors. And the bill will allow for, as has been alluded to in the Minister's speech, it will allow for cooperation in healthcare between Ireland and the UK, very important. Student mobility, which I think is great, and I have so many examples we could all cite here. The SUSI grants to students studying in the UK and UK students here. Social welfare, that's very important because we have such an a link with our immigrants, and we have so many, if you like, people, returned immigrants here on social welfare payments from the UK, and we have many citizens in the UK on various social welfare payments. So a continuity there is crucial, very, very important, and reciprocity. So that's achieved by the bill. The insolvency issue is important for workers here. Obviously, a lot of people do go abroad for insolvency, so that makes that important. And obviously, the annulments and divorce area, the mutual recognition is so important there, and the childcare provisions, and indeed the taxation measures set out. And I think it's welcome that we have the extra time to make VAT returns, and the customs online services support for that. And of course cross-border bus area. Now, what I'd like our Minister to respond to, if he would please, is the fear around congestion that I was reading when I was reading before I came up here in some of the newspaper extracts over recent weeks over the recent weeks. About one of the things cited in media or in newspaper articles is the risk of congestion at our ports. And at the moment, 6,000 heavy vehicles go through Dublin port every day. 400 heavy vehicles in peak time of the morning go through the port tunnel, and that has potential for great congestion and maybe backwards into the M50. And assurances from the Minister on this, in terms of a strategy to deal with it, would be appreciated in his final remarks. I also would ask the Minister to respond to something else that I came across as I was trying to read a few pieces before this, was the risk to the existing health arrangements by which the famous buses, etc., bring people to the north for various surgeries, and where the cross-border medical procedures, and it's been one of the good, it's been a very successful scheme, and I'd be interested. Is there a threat to that, Minister, and if so, are there contingency plans, and what kind of assurances could you give there? We're all very conscious of what came up last night, the question of the famous fish and chips issue and the threat to the Irish chips. And while you could look at that in a light-hearted fashion, it is though indicative of the level of interaction and the level of threat and the level of danger that the entire Brexit project and the potential to cause this upheaval here has. And I suppose it's a serious issue too, and it's certainly a serious issue for that sector. Basically, I'm delighted that the bill sets out, as described earlier, to protect our citizenry to the maximum degree possible. In other words, to maintain the status quo to the greatest degree possible, and to avoid threats. I mean, there were existential threats at the outset to agriculture, to food, to the whole border community. We could go on, and indeed, as I look across at Senator Crockwell here, we were on the previous Brexit committee together, and we had all the sectoral interests in at that time for meetings. The previous select committee, and we'll have the next one getting going now under Senator Chambers, and look forward to working with that one, and indeed all these issues that are arising, and this today will arise there. But in Senator Crockwell and my one earlier, the sectoral interest came in, they outlined their troubles to us, and effectively it was Armageddon in its worst form. So that's why it's so important. I don't see that there's much more to be said other than I'm enthusiastic of the bill. I look forward to the Minister's response and to the few issues I raised. And I'm glad that we're putting money into this project and we're putting staff into it and we're trying to make it work. And just we have to hope, and again, even through these chambers, as I've done in many instances at the Council of Europe and on informal contact with members of the UK delegation, we should say from this chamber, we appeal to our friends in the UK to please, please do a deal on this one and try to maintain normality, not only for us, but for their own citizenry. Thank you.
Thank you.